welcome back to the True Northing podcast. If you've been listening in over the last couple of episodes, we have been diving into all things teen girls and what they are facing, what challenges they face. And we are starting to get into how parents can better show up for them. So, to recap just a little bit, we are referencing Mary Pfeiffer's book quite a bit called Reviving Ophelia. And she talks about how the primary issue that adolescent girls face is she's not knowing who they are, not having a real connection to their true self and their true identity, sense of self. And often where parents go wrong during this stage is kind of stepping back and chalking it up to just being a phase that they're going through. And, oh, this is a challenging time. They're going to be a nightmare. They're going to have attitude, all of these things. And so parents really kind of step back and struggle to be the guiding force that the girls really need during this age. And the primary developmental task, we could say, is to discover who they are in the world. And if parents aren't guiding that process, those girls are going to be more susceptible to influence from society and their peers, looking to the external world to tell them who they are. And that can lead to all kinds of challenges and confusion. So what we want to get into today is some of those more practical ways that parents can really step up and support young teen girls to develop their sense of self and become who they are, and let that be their guiding force as they navigate really challenging situations and decisions. So let's get into it.
True Northing for teens.
True Northing for teens.
True Northing for teens. Yeah, something that we've been discussing quite a bit is about, in general, on this podcast, we talk about your authentic self and living your true self and how to be connected to yourself. And the teen years are an essential time of development and understanding in curiosity of who they are outside and inclusive of their relationship with their parents and their family. But it's them learning who they are from the inside out versus being told who they are from the outside in, if they're given that opportunity, which is such an essential opportunity and time for that. As you said, it's their developmental task. And yet, as you mentioned, the norm is really this time for girls getting the messaging of who they're supposed to be from the outside in. What am I supposed to wear? How am I supposed to act? How am I supposed to talk? Who am I supposed to be friends with? What's cool? Looking around to the outside of who to be versus being guided to the inside of who to be. And so this is what this episode is really about, of like, how do we guide teens from the inside out of who to be and to learn who they are? And first of all, it takes the spaciousness of the parent and the ability of the parent to be open to the child discovering who they are. And so I would say that for a parent listening, that's step one of opening yourself up to the process of your child discovering and becoming who they are.
Giving them the space to do that while also guiding them along the way, encouraging them to self-reflect, the parent asking questions that help them really think about who they are, who they want to be in the world, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and what it's like to be them. Like, it's really about self-reflecting. What is it like to be me? And what is interesting to me? Who inspires me? What inspires me? When do I feel connected to myself? And so, yeah, like a healthy container of guidance for these these teen girls. And as you said, there's this time when most parents let go because their children are growing up and they're getting older. It is a time for independence, but within a framework of guidance so that they aren't led astray or led down a path that's not for them or that could be harmful for them.
Right, without those opportunities to self-reflect, they're constantly looking outward to their peers and society and all these messages coming in, about who they should be. And so for the parent to step in with these really thoughtful, intentional questions and creating this space, inviting them in to reflect and connect to themselves. Like, "Oh, yeah, who am I? Who do I wanna be? What what do I think about that? How does that make me feel?" Rather than just going along with whatever the group is doing, whatever is presented to them.
So, Mary Pfeiffer, as we mentioned, and that we're really so inspired by her book, and especially during this phase for girls, she provides a series of questions for parents or caregivers or therapists to ask teen girls. And what was amazing for me about going through this list, I actually got quite teared up of like, oh my gosh, like these are questions I want to ask myself. And wow, if I got the chance to reflect on these questions as a teen, what would life have been like for me? And it's all about just discovering who they are. And so some of these questions, and I definitely recommend getting the book to just look through the series of questions that she and prompts that she recommends. But her questions focus on like self and identity, feelings and inner life, body, self image, and family, friends, and relationships, culture and media, meaning and growth. And she asks questions. And these are questions that you can ask your girls. Is like, when do you feel most like yourself? And maybe that's an activity. Or who do you spend time with that you feel the most yourself around? Who really understands you? Are there parts of yourself that you hide from others? Are there parts of you that you wish that other people knew about you? How do you know when something feels true to you? What does being real mean to you? What makes you feel sad? What makes you lose your sense of self? What helps you recover or regulate after something sad or upsetting or painful happens? Um, what helps you feel calm? Um, when do you feel most at home in your body? What makes you feel disconnected or critical of your body? What helps you feel strong and beautiful? Who are your closest friends and what do you like about them? What qualities in others inspire you? Who do you trust and why? What makes a good friend? What do you wish your parents or other adults understood better about what it's like to be you or what it's like to be a teen these days? What kind of people or situations or experiences make you feel good about yourself? What makes you feel like you truly belong? When have you said no and felt proud of it? What messages do you get from school, media, or the culture about who you should be or what's cool, normal, or beautiful, or what's expected of you? And how does that feel? What do those messages feel like? When do you feel pressure to fit in? Maybe there's people or experiences. What women do you admire the most and why? How does social media affect how you see yourself and others? What dreams do you have for the future? What kind of person do you hope to become? What values feel most important to you right now? And what do you need from the people around you to help you get there? So clearly, this is a massive list of questions, but I'm curious as a listener what it felt like to hear those questions. If there were any that stuck out to you, these questions can be used, with your daughter, if you're an auntie, if you're a teacher, if you're a caregiver, if you're a grandmother, directly with an adolescent girl or with a group of girls. And last year, I had the honor of being with my daughter in her class of girls, and I used a number of these questions as prompts for an activity for them. And I'll go over more of that activity another time, perhaps in a guided session episode. But even just reading those questions aloud, I can feel the power in a girl being able to wonder those things and discover those things and what those things feel like and mean for her and to find her own answers. And that reflection will come up in different situations. Then she'll be able to ask herself, how am I feeling around this person? Is this person embodying qualities of a friend that help me feel good about myself? Does this post make me feel bad about my body? These will be questions, not just in the moment, but that later on they will be able to carry with them into different situations.
And then her sense of self can be the guiding force for her when she's making decisions. And I think you might have said this before, helping her to make decisions, teaching her to make decisions because she's proud of them, because they are in line with who she is, how she views herself, how she wants to show up in the world, versus making decisions based on fear, based on the pressure to fit in and fear about what might happen if she makes the wrong decision or a different decision or a decision that goes against the group. So that seems like such an important piece. And another piece I'm glad you mentioned is that these are questions that any adult in her life can ask, whether that is an auntie or a coach or a grandmother or a friend of the family, but somebody that she's comfortable with, somebody that she trusts, somebody that she maybe looks up to. And that's something you mentioned, Mary Pfeiffer talks about too, the importance of also helping her to find a connection outside of her parents who can be a role model in a sense. So that could also be if she's not in an activity, that could be a coach or an instructor or a teacher, that can be a really important piece too, that parents are checking in, absolutely, but that she also has another another adult, maybe outside of the family that she looks up to, and that could be a therapist too.
Yeah, we want to have people in their lives that they can be modeled to of, a healthy expression of an adult besides their parents because they are looking outside of their family. Of course, that should be a place that they can feel home in, family that they can keep checking in with and connecting to, but that they're broadening their horizons. They're broadening their mind, they're broadening their gaze to look outside in the world. And so we want them to have people to look towards and mentors to have, and maybe that's just one person, like you said, a therapist or a coach, that they know that they can go to. And with these questions and in this conversation, like they are developing an inner compass. They are developing a North Star. They are deepening their connection to their internal sense, their internal yes, their internal no, their internal check in place. And that can be where they bounce choices off of. Does this connect with who I am and who I'm becoming? And that leads me to this other idea about, I'm not remembering exactly where I read it or heard it, but it was about supporting teens to make choices in their life because they're proud of who they are versus out of fear of that choice. And this really stuck with me. There's so many different choices that teens can be faced with, and we can take one example or a couple examples like sex or drugs. And so maybe the fear being like, no, I'm not going to do drugs because then you'll become a drug addict and, like then I'll, get involved with the wrong crowd. And they may have all these reasons that they've learned to be afraid and to say no. However, what we want to guide them in is to have value for who they are and be proud of who they are and make choices from that place. Like, I value my body and my health and my clarity and who I am and my goals and dreams. And that's why I'm choosing not to do drugs or sex. Like, oh, I don't want to have sex because I don't want to get pregnant, or like, I value myself and I know that that's an experience that I really want to have special for me with the right person. Right. Or, of course, fear can be in the other way. Oh, I want to belong. And so I will do it. So supporting them to make choices because of their values versus fear.
That's such an important distinction. That makes so much sense when you say it like that, especially with the examples. It helps to notice that difference. Yeah. Am I choosing to do this or not do this out of fear because of consequence, or am I choosing to do it because I really value myself and I'm proud of who I am?
Yeah. Or value who I'm becoming because I have a star, I have a sense of self, and I'm connected to that. And because I'm connected to that, then I can make choices from there.
So we have touched on this hugely important piece of encouraging self-reflection, helping her to develop her sense of self through these really beautiful intentional questions that parents and or um, um, a mentor or other family member can ask, posing these questions, creating these opportunities for her to reflect and really think about who she is and who she wants to be, and teaching her this last piece, teaching her to make decisions because she really values herself rather than making decisions based on fear, helping her to feel understood. So, parents really getting curious and wanting to understand and being able to empathize with what she is navigating during this stage of life. And I mean, this is such a crucial part of parenting, I would say all throughout, but especially during this time of identity formation, for parents to help her feel seen and understood. And what that means is being really curious and asking questions and really listening. Often parents, we even do this in our adult relationships, but jump to fixing and solving. And, when our kids share with us, we want to jump right in and get to the solution and guide them in the direction that we want them to go. But when we do that, we can miss this really crucial experience that she needs, which is to just be heard and received. And so for the parent to just listen, don't jump in, don't react, but just hear what she's saying. You might mirror it back, you might repeat it back just to make sure you're really getting it. And then you could ask more questions, helping her to deepen, helping her to get more clarity for herself about the situation by asking questions instead of feeding her your ideas about the situation. And just being with her and empathizing, like to say, wow, I can imagine how you must be feeling. What a challenging situation. That feels really confusing. Just validating and empathizing, I think, will go so much farther than jumping in and trying to save her or fix the situation. And certainly there's a place for that after you've done the listening and the validating and the empathizing, after you've been curious and just asked more questions to help her connect to her own answers. Then, and especially if it's a risky situation, then, there could be an opportunity there for, do you need help with this? What is the outcome you're wanting for yourself in this situation? How can I support you? That kind of thing.
I love that about supporting them to reflect on experiences versus just jumping in. And I know there's been times that it's been hard as a parent to not be like, you tell it how I see it versus, oh, what was that like for you? And coming back to this list of questions, like, oh, was that a situation that you felt connected to yourself? Or all these self reflecting questions so that they can learn themselves from the inside out. And that seems like such a key theme throughout all of this is like we were talking about before this episode and throughout this episode is like the intrinsic motivation versus the extrinsic motivation. There was one situation with my daughter that I thought I would share here um, on this topic of knowing herself from the inside out versus performing or responding from the outside in. And so one of my girls has been auditioning for a number of years for a certain role um, in a dance performance, and she, for many years, did not get any role, and still really, really felt connected to wanting to audition and really, really struggled because she, in her mind, in her experience and in reality, experienced rejection. And yet she really struggled with this like, they don't want me, they don't think I'm good, but I really want to have that role. And it's been years of kind of reflecting and directing and wondering and supporting this process. And this last year, it was her fourth year in a row. and she was wondering about auditioning, and yet after 3 years was like, they don't believe in me. They'll never see me. And in previous years, we had conversations like, um, how people get rejected and they just need to keep going and realize their time. And if they really want something, they just keep working hard. But this year, our conversation was really about, where does worth come from? Where does value come from? And if we put our value in somebody else's hands, we are bound to be disconnected from ourselves, whether it's good or bad. If someone says, "You're great, you're amazing," and you're always handing over your worth to somebody else, um, then it's always going to feel far away from you. And so, what we talked about this year was about not putting your worth and your identity and your sense of self in somebody else's hands. And no matter if somebody says, no, you're not right for your role or this role, the important part is not losing yourself and being disconnected from yourself. And so, before going through this audition, the most important part for her, as we talked about in conversations, was that she wanted to be there, that she loves to dance, and that she felt connected to this role and she believed in herself, regardless of what was going to show up on the outside. And amazingly, she got the role. um, but it took her, because she could have easily not shown up to any more auditions. But the point was that she had developed this sense of value and worth and want from the inside out, regardless of what happened around her from the outside. And so when she got the role, that was the most incredible piece of, wow, look at you. You stayed connected. You stayed in your worth. You kept going forward despite rejection and what people were thinking or feeling or choosing about you.
I love that story. That's so beautiful. What an important message, right? Show up, do the audition because you love it, because you value yourself, because you believe in yourself. And you're going for something that you want and that's important to you. And even if it doesn't go your way, even if somebody gives some kind of feedback or says no to you, that's disappointing, but it's also okay. You're still you. You still love to dance. You still show up when you want something and you stay connected to you. And you own your self-worth.
Yeah,
Nobody else.
you own it. And of course, if not this, then something better. Keep showing up for you.
Okay. So this seems like a good place to wrap, unless there's any last piece you're thinking about.
I think we got it.
So, we want to invite listeners to share this episode with another parent or a friend if you found this helpful. And then also, we'd love to have some discussion and to hear from you. So, thinking about, what do you wish your parents had known when you were a teen? What would have been helpful to you? What was your experience? And anything else that maybe stuck out to you or resonated or caused you to self reflect during this episode. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below, or you can send us an email and we'll include all of that information in the show notes. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.